Welcome to my Crush Microstakes poker course. I'm glad to have you here. I'm glad that you enrolled. So you did the right thing enrolling into this course if you want to improve your poker game as a microstakes poker player, because this is arguably one of the most comprehensive and longest poker courses available on the internet today, especially for the microstakes. And over the past roughly 7 years since I initially launched this course, I've been updating it and improving it over the years, and I've had tens of thousands of students take it and successfully improve their poker game. So I want to take a couple of minutes just to welcome you to the course and also cover what we're going to talk about in this course. And I also want to jump right into the material and talk about why people failed to beat the microstakes. So let's jump over to my PowerPoint presentation and let's get into it. All right, so let's start off by talking about the course topics from a very high level perspective. So we're going to cover multiple different things within this course. We're going to start off with the basics with fundamental concepts. Then after that, we're going to jump into our pre-flop strategy. After that, we're going to jump into our essential poker math. And then after that, we'll jump into our post-flop strategy. And then also at the end of the course, I've compiled around 3 hours of Student League Finder reviews that's available for you as well. So with that said, let's take a deeper dive look at everything. So we're going to start off, like I said on the last slide, with our fundamental concepts. This is going to be around 4 hours in length. The first section is going to be on a wide variety of different essential and fundamental concepts. Then we're going to jump into our HUD stats and player types. Then we're going to do another section on some additional essential topics. And then we're going to finish it off with a section on developing our game plan and talking about study strategies. After that, we're going to jump into our pre-flop strategy. And this is going to be very lengthy. It's almost 9 hours in length. And we have 9 different sections in total, but we're going to cover everything that you need to know. We're going to go over the basics. We're going to talk about the fundamentals. Then we'll go into the concept of raising first in as a pre-flop raiser. Then we'll talk about 3-betting and defending against 3-bets pre-flop. We'll then talk about cold calling raises and set mining. After that, we'll talk about isolation raising limpers. Then we'll also talk about overlimping. After that, we're going to talk about value squeezing and overcalling. And then after that, we're going to talk about stealing the blinds and blind defense. And then we're going to end this section with some live play and explain videos. Then after that, we're going to jump to our essential poker math section. This is an hour in length. And within this section, I covered the bare bone basic mathematics that you need to know. Now, don't think that this is the only section within the course that we talk about poker math, because in the other sections, in the fundamental concepts and the pre-flop sections and the post-flop sections, I also provide poker mathematics in there, but I have one specific section that covers all the basics in detail within 1 hour. So we cover probability and odds, pot odds, implied odds, common draws and outs, the rule of 2 and 4, and calling withdrawing hands. Then after that, we jump to our post-flop strategy, and this is a behemoth of multiple different sections. It's around 11 hours in length. So we start off with post-flop fundamentals, then we jump into continuation betting. After that, we talk about playing post-flop as a pre-flop caller. Then after that, we talk about playing in limped pots and 3-bet pots. Then we talk about playing post-flop as blind defense situations. After that, we also jump into some additional post-flop concepts, and then we end it off with some live play and explain videos. So as you can see, we cover a lot in this course. And my recommendation as you start to go through this course, if there's something that you don't get, don't be afraid to go back through and watch it again. I've had lots and lots of students over the years that have gone through the entire course 2 or 3 different times. And then also after that, they still reference the material from time to time. So that's very common. Don't be afraid to go back through and to watch material. And don't think that you're not doing well if you're not understanding it the first time, because there's a lot of material in this course and there's a lot of things that a lot of people have to go through at multiple different times. So I just want to make sure that you understand that. Now, I want to go ahead and also talk about why people fail to beat the microstakes. Well, first and foremost, number one, they're just bad players. If we think about the microstakes, and for those of you that haven't played the microstakes before, but you played live low stakes poker, let's think about Las Vegas and somebody that goes there and they're there to have fun and they decide to sit down at a poker table. Well, the microstakes are very similar to that. You can think of these people as fun recreational players. They really aren't good. Maybe they've watched a video, maybe they haven't. Most likely they probably never picked up a book. They've never taken a course. They don't know anything other than the basic rules. They don't know any sort of strategies, and they're just bad players. And you're going to see a lot of those types of players at the microstakes because they're really cheap to play and people play them for fun. The second reason is applying strategies and tactics that don't apply to the microstakes. Now, I'm going to teach you a balanced approach to playing the game. If you don't know what that means, don't worry. But this is a precursor to GTO, Game Theory Optimal, but full-blown GTO play that doesn't apply to the microstakes. And there are a lot of training sites that teach GTO. And the thing is, if you're trying to apply strategies and tactics that don't apply to the stakes that you're playing, well, you're going to leave money on the table. And so that's an issue. If you're sitting down at a $5 buy-in game or a $2 buy-in game, which is a microstakes game, and you're playing GTO and you're not playing exploitative poker, then you're leaving money on the table. Now, the next thing that makes it so people fail to beat the microstakes and really just fail at poker is they tend to overthink situations and level themselves. So when we're leveling ourselves and overthinking, we're overanalyzing a situation. We can simplify the way in which we play. And my methodology and philosophy for teaching is I want you to understand the theory and the concepts, but I also want to make it as simple as possible. So for example, in the pre-flop section, you're going to see that I have a lot of ranges, but I don't break them out and make them as detailed as you could. There are some other poker coaches that will make some very detailed pre-flop ranges that are almost impossible to follow, where there are hundreds of different ranges that you have to follow. I simplify it. So when we think about poker, it's very easy to take a simple situation and to overanalyze it and to turn it into a very complex situation where you end up potentially making the wrong decision. And when you do that, it can also put you emotionally on tilt. And that gets us to the next point. And the next point is getting too emotionally involved. And so if we think about this, in regards to poker, poker is a game of long-term averages. What you're going to learn in this poker course is that in regards to how you do in one particular hand, that doesn't matter. In regards to how you do in playing one particular hand the same way over 1,000 hands or 10,000 hands or 100,000 hands, that's going to determine if you're a winning player or if you're a losing player. And how you think about that mentally, how you think about it from the perspective of mental fortitude, and whether you're getting upset at the table if you're not doing well or if you're not, that's going to dictate how well you play, because people that get upset when things aren't going their way, people that get irritated when they're not getting hands, people that get impatient at the table when they should be patient and waiting for the best hands to play instead of playing junk, that's getting too emotionally involved. And it really comes to the point of something called tilt, which we're going to talk about in this course. People that struggle with tilt, people that struggle with their emotions at the poker table, they end up playing subpar as well. And that also causes people to fail to beat the microstakes. The next point is people not understanding variance. So in poker, our decisions over tens of thousands of hands or hundred thousands of hands, that's what matters. What you have to understand is that in the short term, anything can happen, and it will happen. So for example, last night, I got all in pre-flop with pocket kings versus pocket queens, and I lost because my opponent made quad queens. But in that one instance, I lost the hand. And it didn't bother me because I got all in with the best hand. And if we ran that situation over and over again 1,000 times, I'm going to end up winning a lot of money. But that one time, variance took effect. They got lucky and they won. And a lot of people that are new to poker, they don't really understand this concept of variance, and that in the short term, anything can happen. But over the long term, it starts to level out, and it's based upon how you play, and luck is minimized. The next thing that causes people not to be able to beat the microstakes and poker in general is poor bankroll management. So in regards to our bankroll, that's the amount of money that we set aside to play poker. And if we have poor bankroll management, we can spew off our bankroll very quickly. A good example is if somebody goes on tilt and they decide to move up in stakes to try to get some money back because they haven't been playing well and they've been losing, and they jump up in stakes and they're out of their league and they lose their entire bankroll within an hour. That's an example of poor bankroll management. Or another example would be just not having a bankroll that's big enough based upon your win rate. And we're going to talk about that in this course. And sitting down at some stakes where your bankroll is too small and you can't withstand this short-term variance and you end up losing your entire bankroll. And then the last one is simply playing against tough opponents. So at the microstakes and in poker in general, something that's called game selection is very important. So game selection is a concept of looking at the tables and identifying tables that you want to play at. When there are opponents worse than you, you sit down and you play against them. And then on the flip side, when you sit down at a table with a bunch of other really good players and they're making your life really difficult at the table, you get up and you walk away and you find another one. That's an example of good game selection, where we choose to play against players that we have an edge on, and we choose not to play against players that we don't have an edge on. When you're starting out to learn the game and you're working on your game, when you're playing against a lot of players that are as good as you or much better than you, it's going to cause some issues. There are issues in regards to, well, you're not going to be a winning player because you're going to be losing to better players. And there's also a psychological element to it as well. When you're learning the game, which you are if you're taking this course, if you sit down at a very tough table and you're always losing, well, you're not going to have any confidence in your game. You're not going to have any confidence that what you're learning is working, and you're not going to have any confidence in general, and so you may just give up on poker. But on the flip side, if you're playing against players that are learning the game just like you, and players that are bad players, well, you're going to see the fruits of your studying. You're going to be beating them, you're going to be winning as you're learning, and you're going to build up your confidence. So these are some of the reasons why people fail to beat the microstakes. Now, before we end this video, I want to show you my Poker Tracker 4 graph, which shows my winnings, and tell you a little bit about me. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at that. So what you see on the screen is Poker Tracker 4, and you're going to learn about this software later in the course. But what you're seeing specifically is my long-term winnings at the microstakes. So this is my winnings at the microstakes over a sample size of close to 250,000 hands, primarily playing 5NL, which is a $5 buying game, which is your stereotypical microstakes game, but also all the way up to 25NL, which is a $25 buying game, which is the upper echelon of the microstakes. And this shows that I'm a consistent long-term winning poker player at the microstakes. Now, also, I'm the founder of Microgrinder Poker School, which is an online poker school that I designed as an affordable poker school for both beginner and struggling microstakes poker players. And combined with my poker school on my website as well as Udemy, I've had around 25,000 students take my courses over the last 7 years, and I've created around 30 different poker courses. So I've been coaching and I've been teaching the microstakes for 7 years, and I've taught tens of thousands of students. I'm also a #1 best-selling author. I'm the #1 best-selling author of Essential Poker Math, both the original edition and the expanded edition. And those two books, the original edition and the expanded edition, they've been within Amazon's best-selling list and the #1 bestseller off and on for the past 7 years. And so overall, I've dedicated my coaching and my teaching to the microstakes for a very long time, and a lot of my students have had success. And I wanted to share this information with you because I'm just not a random poker player that's creating a course. I'm somebody that's been in the industry for a long time and somebody that's dedicated their teaching and their coaching to the microstakes. So anyways, again, I want to thank you for signing up and taking this course. I hope that you find it enjoyable and beneficial. Let's go ahead and let's continue on with the course content.